So Elizabeth, thank you so much for making the time to talk to me. We're 2 weeks before the Women Who Build Summit for this year, and things are starting to really ramp up, and I can see excitement growing a lot. So I'm super happy to have this opportunity to chat with you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about your breakout session.
So my name is Elizabeth Murphy. I work at Shawmut Design and Construction. I've been there about 9 years now. We have a program called Construction Management Skills Training that kind of accelerates folks maybe who are either young or just kind of new to the field. And then you get exposure over 3 years to different roles, estimating, site super, and project management. So I did that to kind of help me ease my way in. I studied architecture in undergrad. And my dad always, he started his own construction company. So I've always been in it, but to do it in real life is definitely different. So that program was great for me. And then after that, you kind of pick which direction you want to go in. So I did project management for a handful of years. And then in the last year or two, I kind of switched to this new role as sustainability manager, which has been really exciting. Still definitely developing and in the early stages, but it's something that I've wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to kind of head in this direction. But it was really about like creating that pathway for this position because it is something new for Shawmut.
That's really exciting. And to be the first one in a new position in an organization is so exciting. It's empowering, it's impactful. And when I've had that opportunity, I love the ability to be creative and technical at the same time and generate that excitement and really get things going. So good. That's really great.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really exciting.
So you're going to be doing a breakout session, right, at the Women Who Build Summit. And I'm really interested in this. So I'm just going to share the title in case anybody's like looking it up and trying to figure out what they're going to attend. But it's Raising the Standard for Sustainable Building, Living Building Challenge.
Yes.
Okay. So before we even talk about anything else, I really want to get a good understanding of what the Living Building Challenge is. It's LBC, right?
Correct. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Give us a skinny.
I'll give you like cliff notes. It's definitely very technical. The handbook for the standards thick, but it's run through the International Living Future Institute, and they have I think really it's more of a yes, it's a building rating system where you can get certified, but it's really kind of a philosophy and like a way of building, a way of operating your business. It has different pedals that it focuses on. So you'll have like a water pedal, an energy pedal, and then within each of those pedals, there's imperatives that kind of guide you on how to build your building, how to design it, how to operate it. And it's really focused around regenerative design, a holistic systems-based way of thinking, doing as little to impact the site and the local community in negative ways, and really trying to eliminate that altogether, and rather how can we positively impact the environment when we go to build or renovate a building. So it's very wide reaching, and I would say definitely more of a philosophy and kind of a way of thinking that uses buildings as kind of the means and methods of achieving that.
So that's interesting. So You said petals, like flower petals,
Yes,
not
exactly.
versus petals like.
Yes, not bike pedals. It's like flower petals. Another kind of key, well, I guess one of the petals is biophilic design. And so biophilia, kind of the love or the mimicking of nature. Um, and that's something else that they prioritize, is bringing in nature into the design, thinking of how nature works and the systems in nature work, and how can we mimic that in our building design rather than making something else that I guess it would be more of a typical man-made design, like something that using nature to kind of guide our design and the way we operate.
So kind of like a more organic influence
Yes.
going on
Yeah.
in the design elements. So that's interesting. I've never heard of it before. And I'm wondering, like, I can hear some of why, but I'm gonna ask the question very specifically, like, why this rating system and not some of the others? What is it that makes this one particularly compelling for you?
Sure. Um, there's a couple components that I think speak to the like level of expectations and how stringent the standard is, for why I think it might be difficult to achieve, or it might require you doing things differently. But that's kind of the whole point. The way we're doing things now isn't working, and it doesn't take into consideration so many things in the way that buildings and the building industry are negatively impacting people and the planet. So we do have to kind of come up with a new system, a new way of operating. And I think that's really what the Living Building Challenge represents. I think any building that is following some sort of sustainable design or going for green building certification like LEED, Passive House, WELL, they're all fantastic. They all have their purpose. But I think the Living Building Challenge does a really good job at kind of wrapping in all of the same elements and the criteria and taking it to the next level. They have a requirement for material health, and they follow what's called the red list of materials, and it's a chemical inventory of materials, or excuse me, of material ingredients that aren't allowed. And so you would want all of your products to be red list free. And it can be very difficult to get that information from manufacturers, because a lot of it can be proprietary. So that can be like a time-consuming thing, working with a manufacturer to kind of get that information from them and verify that it is red list free. And then on the flip side, it's also, not all of the manufacturers are there yet in terms of being able to be red list free or taking that step to be red list free. A lot of the Living Building Challenge focuses on the community, and if there were an emergency, an unexpected climate event, a security threat, how is your building potentially being used as a safe haven for the local community? Or do you have a garden that you can provide food for employees or the local community in the event of some extreme event? I think it really just goes kind of to the next level. It also focuses on, in terms of energy or building performance, you have to monitor your actual building performance post occupancy, typically for about a year, which speaks to Like, you can't just have a building designed a certain way. You have to actually achieve what you set out in the design, and you have to prove that it works, which I think is huge.
So Mm. I'm most familiar with LEED, as I'm sure a lot of people are, and that seems to have, a pretty wide reach across the country and in other places. But when I bring up, okay, what are the requirements for this particular job when doing a peer review, it's almost always, okay, we're doing LEED points. If they're doing anything, they're going after LEED points. And all of my history, 25 years in construction, doing risk peer reviews for, construction jobs, I have never heard about LPC, LBC.
Yeah.
I can't even get the acronym right. It's only 3 letters. So that's how fresh this idea is to me. So how prevalent is using the Living Building Challenge criteria now in the States?
I think it really depends on the client, and the design team. Designers are in a really tough position because they're the ones often who need to kind of push the boundaries and ask for more of their clients. There are certainly clients who might be well versed and excited about green building and want their projects, their development, their offices, whatever it might be, to be as low impact as possible, and ask that of their designers. But they're without, there's a wide percentage of business owners and clients who are not, maybe either well versed or just it's not on their radar as a top priority. And in that case, it's on the designers to kind of promote that. And then you hit a struggle between, does it fit in our schedule? Does it fit in our budget? Sustainable building doesn't always have to be more costly. I would say sometimes it's more costly up front, but has a great payback. There's just a lot of different factors that go into it. So I think it will become more prevalent. And right now it's really kind of design team and owner dependent on where they're at. I think LEED, again, is great. I think really any building certification system is great because it's asking more of the clients and of the design team and of the builders. I think LEED is so widely utilized because of the point system, where if you get, maybe it's 50 points, you're certified. And then the next threshold, you're, like gold, silver, platinum. And that allows you the flexibility to, target some of these things. What do we have the budget for? What do we have the schedule to, accommodate? Or what does our site look like? And kind of what are we working with? Are we close to local transportation? And can we go for that credit? Where the Living Building Challenge, it's not necessarily an all or nothing for the red list material. Or I think there's another credit, or I guess title, imperative. The language is also different between each standard. There's factors for distance of material. You want material to be local, whether it's, extracted, manufactured. You want it to be as local as possible to both give back to your local community and then reduce, the effects of transportation. But it's not 100% has to be within, X amount. There's a buffer. I think it's maybe 10 to 20% of your materials can come from anywhere. So it's not an all or nothing, but it's definitely more stringent. It asks more of the client, of the designers, of the builders, and really, I think, takes it to that next level.
So that's great. So your session will give everyone in the room at minimum. I mean, you guys are going to be doing a case study, and you have a total of 3. So 2 other people who are going to be reviewing a project that went through this, right? So like a case study of it. So super cool. But I think one of the things that often resonates with people when they learn something new or they're exposed to it for the very first time is like, oh, now I have a new vocabulary word. Now I have something I can, if I'm curious about it, I can explore more and really get into it. But you can't be curious about something that you're not aware of. So that's really great to be, able to be in this room with a lot of people. I'm going to assume that most people are like me and ignorant on this topic. So that means you get to give a whole new world for people to explore. That in and of itself, I find to be very exciting.
Yeah, that honestly would be the best case scenario if everyone in the room didn't know what we were going to talk about. And then, we could kind of spread the word. I'm speaking with Jan Koch and Kelly O'Brien, both with Shawmut, and I think they'll probably focus more on, how does a GC function and what are the impacts to a GC on an LBC project. I'm going to be speaking more broadly on sustainability and the Living Building Challenge system. But I think there are things that, hopefully people in the room will also, gain an understanding about how long it takes to estimate, or what do we need to focus on with our site logistics and incorporating certain things into our schedule, talking to subs and making sure that they're really understanding what their responsibilities are too. It's definitely a learning process too for teams. We will be talking about one of our projects that we just completed, the HMTX World Headquarters in Connecticut. It's a really beautiful building. So we'll be talking a little bit about that project. I think I'll touch on the design, but I don't want to go in too much because, again, we're not, designers. But really, I think we'll then transition, and I think Jan and Kelly are going to talk a lot about their experiences managing an LBC project, or estimating that type of project.
Well, and I'm sure a lot of any CMs or GCs in that audience are going to be really interested in what lessons you learned with bringing the subs on board and getting that education and the selecting of subs too, because I am very sure that this isn't something that you leave out of a contract and then go, oh, by the way, this is an LBC project and you're going to do it, right? Like this is definitely a part of the bid.
Yes, absolutely. You need that commitment and that buy-in early, and it can't just be one person at the company, whether it's the estimator, or even if you have the owner, the VP of the company coming to you and saying, yeah, we're all in. You really need to continue to have these conversations throughout the whole project with the office team, with the field team, with everybody, really. And it's a continuous conversation. It's a continuous learning experience. Something that I think we'll touch on, honestly, is like composting on site. A lot of subs and GCs are totally used to separating your waste in different streams, recycling that. That's much more common practice now. But composting is, again, kind of just taking it to that next level. And just like when you start recycling, you might not know what really can go in each dumpster, or can this be recycled, or is this trash? And it's the same types of conversations, like, can this be composted, or like chasing after people like, oh, don't throw that in the trash, it goes in the compost. So yeah, just lots of little things that is really about learning. And I think that's also what the Living Building Challenge wants to explore, is that education piece too.
Well, I think it's certainly well named based on what you described, right? The Living Building Challenge. So first of all, it is a challenge. It's not easy. It's not just a check the box kind of thing. And you can, get whatever points you're going to get. And, and the point being living building, right? So that's from the begin all the way through the end. I'm sure, the whole life cycle of the building in itself, from soup to nuts, beginning to end. So that's really great. And I'm really excited that you're bringing this new, well, to me, it's new. And again, I assume it's new to everybody else. I mean, why not? And, to be exposed to something that will potentially challenge our current thinking. Like, what wasn't possible 20 years ago, 15 years ago? Well, you know what? We've evolved, and things are possible today that weren't possible yesterday. And it kind of gets into that whole idea, like, we've always done it this way. And, there's a whole bunch of conversation that you can have around that phrase. But guess what? You've done it that way because up until now, it wasn't possible maybe to do it a different way. So whether thinking or technology or, process or whatever it is. So woohoo, go like rattle the cage a little bit on the 27th. I love it. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. This is great.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be great. I mean, it would be great if there were folks in the room who have, built LBC projects. I'm sure there are other GCs who have built more LBC projects than we have. But I think just having that conversation with people, and it kind of helps get the ball rolling. It's certainly out there in the building industry, but I think it would be great if it could be as common and as typical for folks as a LEED project. It would be great if that could be kind of the starting point for people, or at least, aspire to that. Maybe they don't go for certification, but they try and align as much as possible their the design, construction, and operations with the standard.
Well, and that's always a really great way to start. Pull a standard, whether it's quality management systems with ISO 9000 or performance excellence systems with, the Baldrige criteria, or safety systems with ISO 14000, pull a criteria, use it as a benchmark, and see where you're going. It's a great place to start. It's a wonderful place to start. In fact, why wouldn't you? Even if you're not going for a certification, at least you get an idea of what good looks like, or how good can be described, so that you can do a self-assessment and see where you want to spend some energy. So it's really going to be cool. I'm really excited. And what else is exciting about it too is that there are a few other breakout sessions and panels that almost kind of support the conversation. There's definitely, there's sustainability and resilience, the women of green. So there's going to be a lot of experts talking about just in general, green and sustainability. So that is a supporting conversation to this, and vice versa. But there's also one on e-procurement and ESG, which
I saw that. I've never even honestly heard of that.
It's really cool, and some of the things that they're doing are amazing. And the idea that some of the initiatives and efforts that are going into e-procurement, and kind of finding a way to centralize alternative resources for manpower and getting contractors and things like that, those also dovetail into your conversation as well. So it's really nice to see that, this conference is like the various pieces to the whole, but not the whole of where construction has been, the AEC industry has been, but very much like this is coming. And here's evidence. There's like all these different conversations around that future that's not so far out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Really
love
cool.
that. And women doing it too.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not only doing it, but they're the expert in the field of it. Like it's yay. It's great. So I've been able I've been really fortunate to talk to a whole lot of the speakers. More than half of the speakers have been able
Wow.
to do interviews. So that's really great. And I'm just floored each time. I'm like, oh, rock star, rock star, rock star. And then the fact that we're having our keynote speaker is an actual rock star is like,
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, full circle.
yeah, it's gonna be so awesome. It's so cool. So, Elizabeth, thank you. We're only 2 weeks away, so I will see you there. And I really appreciate the effort and the topic and the expertise that you and your colleagues are going to be bringing to the Women Who Build this year.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate the opportunity speaking with you, and I'm just looking forward to really getting together with a bunch of other fantastic folks in the industry and listening to and talking about all these really interesting hot topics.
It's going to be so great.